Yo, what up? It's your boy, Mr. E, and today we're going to learn about an introduction to the coordinate plane. Now, in my last couple of videos, I've kind of hinted towards the coordinate plane or graphing, and a lot of you guys are probably like, what? What's the coordinate plane? What's graphing? I don't know what that is. Well, I'm going to introduce that to you guys today, and we're going to learn all about it and what the different names we can call it and the different things we need to label, so it'll be crystal clear after this video. Before we talk too much about a coordinate plane, I want to introduce you to a couple number lines. The first number line we have is our typical horizontal number line. And if I were to put the number 0 right here in the middle, if we moved over to the right, that means we would go up 1, 2, 3. Now, if we moved over to the left, we would have negative numbers. And even though we don't typically use negative numbers in 5th grade, I think we can all agree that if we had numbers that were less than 0, they would be negative. So this is what a typical horizontal number line looks like, with the positive numbers going over to the right and the negative numbers going over to the left. Now let's think about a vertical number line. So when I think about vertical number lines, I think about a thermometer. Like if we were to try to figure out how high our temperature was or what the temperature was outside, our number line is typically vertical when we use thermometers. So if I put a 0 here in the middle, that means if my numbers increased, I would need to be going up. So 1, 2, and 3 would go up on the vertical number line. But if it decreased, it would go down, negative, -1, -2, -3. So this is what a vertical number line would look like. Now, what would happen if we overlapped these two number lines? Well, we have a coordinate plane now. So this is something that we're going to be using to help us analyze data, to help us read certain points, and just to make mathematics a little bit easier. Now, in 5th grade, since we're being introduced to the coordinate plane, we're going to focus more on this top right portion called quadrant 1. So we're going to dive a little deeper on this top right portion. So this is what a typical coordinate plane is going to look like. It's going to kind of have the grid behind it, kind of like Minecraft. And it's just going to make it a little bit easier for us to read and to plot points on the coordinate plane. So something that's really, really important to me is that we label everything. Anytime you see a coordinate plane on an independent work, on your Khan Academy, on a test, you need to label that bad boy as much as possible. So we're going to start over here with the x-axis. And the x-axis actually has a couple of other names. It's also the independent variable, the input, and the horizontal axis. That's because it goes from left to right. Now, we most typically call this the x-axis because it's the first axis we think about, because x comes first in the alphabet when compared to the next axis we're going to talk about, which is the y-axis. Now, the y-axis has a couple other names too, the dependent, the output, or the vertical axis, and it's vertical because it's going up and down. Hopefully this is all clicking now because we talked about these names in my last couple of videos. So the y-axis will come second because y comes after x in the alphabet. So when we learn more about how to read and how to plot points on a coordinate plane, the y-axis will come second and the x-axis will come first. Now, where these two lines meet each other, right here at 0, this is called the origin, or 0, 0. Now, when I think about origin, I'm kind of a big comic book nerd, and I think of origin stories. So think about like how Spider-Man first got his powers. Spoiler alert, he got bit by a spider and then turned into Spider-Man. So an origin is where you start. So anytime we're on a coordinate plane, we want to look at the origin first before we do anything else. That will really come in handy when we start reading and plotting points on the coordinate plane. Something also kind of funny is I think 0, 0 kind of looks like an owl. Every time I see it, I think of a little owl popping up. So just a little side note on that. Now, we have labeled a couple of things, but there's one more thing that we need to label, and that is the fact that we are in quadrant 1, and we typically label that with a Q and an I. It's an I because we're using Roman numerals. Don't ask me why, but for some reason when we label the quadrants, we label them with Roman numerals. If you remember earlier when we made the big coordinate plane, there was kind of 4 different sections. So we'd have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. But again, we'll mostly focus on quadrant 1. And the reason why we have two plus symbols there is because all of our numbers in quadrant 1 will be positive. So we'll go positive and positive. We'll never go to the negative side. That's something you'll learn more a little bit next year. Ooh, I'm realizing that that kind of looks like a dead owl. All right, and now it looks like we have labeled every part of the coordinate plane. In the next video, we're going to learn how we can read and plot points on the coordinate plane, and then eventually what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to take a table, find the ordered pairs, and graph them on your coordinate plane. You could even add an equation. For some of you guys, this might be like, oh yeah, that's super easy, I totally understand that. But for others, it's like, hold on, let's just first learn about the coordinate plane. So we'll get to that in another video. So I hope that this video was helpful. I hope you get a little practice with coordinate planes so you can get a hundo on your next test. Keep learning, Elsbras.